How you doing? So today we recording this during 9 August. And 9 August, we celebrating Women's Day here in South Africa. And I just wanted to say thank you very much to all you women for all that you've been doing, that you've done in our lives, nurturing Africa, nurturing the land, and nurturing your children, and not only just nurturing your children, but nurturing God's children. And we really appreciate what you've done for us. We really appreciate the love that you've shown us. I believe if you want to see God's true love, look at the way a mother loves their child. So thank you very much to all you women for what you've done. Thank you so much for the sacrifices that you've made in our lives. And I'm grateful, especially to my mother, for all the sacrifices that she's done. And thank you very much for celebrating. Welcome to Quiet Conversations with Al Jackson Pastor. We're still busy. So we're busy checking out a whole lot of different ways, experimenting on different ways of how we're gonna be shooting this podcast. And it's been like a journey for me, and my journey, as I had spoken in the one previous podcast where I was talking about, the idea to the future, the how it started, where I came to for basically getting into youth ministry. And me being there was because I wanted to see young people choose a different direction in their lives, but a direction that empowers them, a direction that gives them power in a sense, or gives them strength to get to their goals and their future, and just build upon that. So that was the whole idea. And today I want to talk about South African youth, the struggles and the challenges that a South African youth faces, especially as a Christian. And it's not only just a South African youth type of situation, but it is basically, it's an African youth thing, because South African youth who identify as Christians, they may face challenges that are influenced by both their age group and their religious beliefs, if you look at it. And here today, I just want to talk about some of the challenges that young people face, especially in South Africa, South African youth, the challenges that they face, especially as a young Christian, and some of the challenges that they might encounter. We're going to look into challenges such as societal pressures, such as cultural diversity, peer influences, moral and ethic dilemmas, religious freedom and tolerance, things like the media and entertainment, especially social media, and we're going to look at things like sexuality and relationships that they have created, and even like the education and their career choices, just trying to take them in a different direction, just for them to see that there is actually hope at the end of all these problems that we see or that we face as young people. And when we look at the first problem that young people face, it's number one is the societal pressures, the pressures that young people face in society. And South African youth, like young people worldwide, and this is like a worldwide phenomenon, that they often face social pressures that can conflict that can conflict with their Christian values, right? These pressures may include materialism, where you find young people now are thinking the only way you can be seen as a successful person is once you have some form of materialistic value on yourself. And then there's the consumerism, which is a very big issue, because the things that we consume as young people is now things that are not teaching or building our character, but it's things that are actually just making us becoming like, for example, like couch potatoes, because we have things like Netflix, we have, things like the types of foods that we consume, things like the type of clothing that we wear. Now you have to have a certain style in your life that makes you appeal to other people in that society that you're in or that community that you're in. And there is an emphasis on secular success, like I said, where people say the only way you can be successful is if there's a lot of materialism and consumerism that's in you. So basically the secular success kind of like encompasses this, and can challenge their commitment to living a spiritually focused life. It challenges them, it hinders them, and it takes them away from that commitment. That's why you'll find that a lot of young people have gotten to a point where they now, when we was growing up, you would find that we were taught, 'cause I grew up in a Seventh Adventist, from a Seventh Adventist background, and growing up from family side, what I would see is that we used to have this whole thing of, even in Sunday school, where they teach you the memory verse, and you go and read that verse in the Bible, but you find yourself reciting this verse each and every day of that week until you go to the next day when you go to church, and you are given another memory verse that you recite. So there was that whole thing of that, because you'd find value in these verses, you would know them and understand where they're coming from and what they mean to you, and you would try to emulate the type of life, the type of lifestyle. But it's all died down. It's all considered like boring type of lifestyle. And another dilemma that we have is the cultural diversity. South Africa is a diverse nation, as we are called the Rainbow Nation, and we have we vary in cultural and religious traditions. We vary so much, because you would find that even in the Christian faith itself, there's so many religious traditions that are found in the context of South African community. And now Christian youth might find it challenging to navigate their faith within a multi-religious and multicultural context, as they need to interact with people people of different beliefs and practices. And I would look at like looking at just schools for an example. As an example, we look at schools, and I remember there's the one time we went to a school, and we wanted to kind of like help out this one school to bring in a program where us as youth pastors could go in there and make an impact in the lives of these young people, so that they can change their ideologies of being in gang and doing drugs and the like, and not focusing on making their lives better or focusing on bettering their lives. So there's that whole thing where schools even say, no, but in a South African society, we have different religions, so we cannot enforce a certain type of a religion in that, into that society. And it's understandable, but there is some schools that are very much of a South African school, and they still say or still make an impact in how we, how we as the church can kind of like be in those schools. But what they do is that they tell us we can give a positive message, but not give a Jesus message in that type of sense. So what then happens is that you will find a lot of youth practitioners or youth pastors or youth ministry practitioners or youth leaders, as per se, when they go to these setups, they turn out to becoming motivational speakers instead of them pastoring the kids. But at the same time, you use that whole idea, or you use that concept of having the pastoral concept. You use that, but place it in that whole ideology of Christianity, basically. Another problem that we face is peer influence, and with peer influence, it's, as a young person, you find that the new thing that's making a difference, or that's making people talk, the buzz. There's a whole lot of things like buzzwords and stuff like that, and peer pressure and the desire to fit in can lead to some Christian youth to compromise their beliefs, or to engage in behaviors that are inconsistent with their faith. And this can actually include participation in activities such as substance abuse, activities such as casual sex, and other behaviors that conflict with Christian teachings. So you will find that there is this rise in sexual immorality, as in terms of the young people, and there is a rise of some of them kind of looking at their lives from the point of view. They're looking at their lives from the point of view of their friends, and saying they want to be like their friends, or they want to be like the it, which is like, especially in the hip hop circles, you got like the trappers, and most of these trappers, they up with the lean game and all that stuff, and it looks cool to these kids, and this is like the message that they're pushing, and it's kind of like the picture that they're pushing, that they're bringing out there, and a lot of young people have found themselves actually going, and it's not like they're actually riding on this wave, as they would say. And that's the peer influence that we get. And that peer influence is taken from what the music that they listen to, and what the message the music they listen to brings. So another conflict that we're fighting against is moral and ethical dilemmas. So in society, in a society that's with a complex history of social and political issues, Christian youth may face a difficult moral and ethical decision, making that decision which has to be moral and ethical. And they might be confronted with issues like racial injustice, poverty, and corruption, which can challenge their efforts to live out their Christian principles. It comes in a space as well, or in a setup where we look at the history of South Africa, and in apartheid, the Bible was used to suppress, or it was used to actually to deprive a black person or a person of color, and to suppress them and to torture them, So that whole thing of, now a lot of young people have started reading and doing research and looking at how the history has been, and then now, because they look at the Bible and think, oh, so this Bible that was introduced to our forefathers has been introduced in this way, and it's been suppressing our people and stuff like that. So now they're beginning to think, why should I actually follow this Bible that is suppressing me? And yet the Bible has always been and will always be a form that has kind of like a book or a library or a formula that teaches love, that brings love to a person. And this is what we are called to do as youth practitioners, to teach them the right moral ways of doing things, teach them that racial injustice is there, but it's one thing that we can actually defeat, poverty is one thing that is there, but we can actually defeat that. And if you look at how poverty plays a major role in the space of removing or pushing a person far away from being a Christian, it actually plays a major role. It's like a catalyst. And another thing that we find is that there's corruption as well. And looking at our political system where corruption is a big thing, and now young people are looking up to these politicians and saying, wow, listen, I could become a corrupt politician because it's a normal thing. So now it's beginning to work in our minds and becoming this thing of, you know what, corruption is part of our lives, it's part of the system, and it's hurting and breaking our system as well as young people. And yet the Bible clearly and big time, it speaks about how bad corruption is, and corruption has actually become like the biggest thing in our lives as young people. So we need to change our ways and find how we can fix our morals and not have ethical dilemmas, so that young people can look up to us and say, okay, this is how you lead your life and this is how I want to be. Another thing that we fight with, another battle, is the religious freedom and tolerance. And South Africa generally, it upholds a religious freedom. There can be still instances of discrimination or intolerance towards Christians. And this comes from a space where there is a lot of churches that popped up a few years back, and they popped up with a message that kind of destroyed the hearts of a young person, a message that gave a young person the kind of idea that churches are only there to suck out every bit of them, and not like churches have become like ticks, and that's the whole picture that young people are seeing. And as they see this picture, but we have a different picture where we need to show them that, you know what, as a Christian, Christians are here to help and here to build. And youth might encounter skepticism or hostility towards their faith, making it important for them to navigate conversations and interactions with respect and patience. So it's become quite a difficult thing for us, especially with this whole idea of religious freedom and tolerance. And then another war or another battle that we're fighting is the media and entertainment, especially with the social media, that has taken up quite a lot of work. It's taken up a lot of space in our minds, in our hearts. It's really like made us become who we are today. And as you can see, we are using a lot of social media platforms or media platforms to push a certain message and try to kind of like make people understand and teach, because in our lives we've gone out of this thing of having the heart to learn. But now what we do is we focus a lot on what the media says to us. But if media can bring out these types of messages that building, then it becomes not only just media for entertainment, but it's media for edutainment, So the media and the entertainment industry, they often promote values that might contradict Christian teachings. And youth might struggle or do struggle with the influence of popular culture, which we normally call it pop culture. And with that influence, we struggle so much, that influence can actually glorify behaviors and attitudes that go against their beliefs. There's a lot of behaviors and attitudes that go against the Christian belief, and because of that, media gives us that type of picture and tells us that's the picture for us to follow. This is the type of lifestyle that we need to live, because you see this in your media or in your social media, or wherever you consume. Because of that idea of consumerism, the amount of consummation of media is so much that we consume things that are even toxic in our own lives. Sexuality and relationships is another battle that we're fighting, where Christian youth may face the challenges related to sexual ethics and relationships. We navigating topics such as premarital sex, topics such as dating within a framework that can be complex and emotionally demanding. So we look at that as a big thing in our Christian walk, especially as young people, and looking at the sexual ethics and relationships. Nowadays, it's so easy to find young people committing adultery or young people having sex at that age, and it's like it's a casual thing for them. They'll tell you, some will even tell you that if I ain't getting some, then we ain't something, type of thing. That's the type of mentality that they have. So it's a big thing that we're finding in our lives that we need to fight against. And this is where we need the church to be involved in this. So church involvement, young people find it hard in that space as well, finding a supportive and authentic church because of what churches have. Some churches have painted, what picture they've painted, and then when you get to that picture, young people find that picture and look at it as though it's something that that can ever be changed, because now a lot of churches are giving them this picture that's very corruptive and all these things that you see there. So finding a supportive and authentic community can be difficult, especially in the church space. The youth might struggle to connect with a local church that aligns with their beliefs and provides a space for them to grow spiritually. It's very difficult for young people to find that. It was so easy those days because, their parents would actually enforce it and say, yo, listen, this is what we do at home and this is how we live our lives. But nowadays, even parents are on that whole picture. In their minds, their picture is, listen, we ain't going there no more, type of thing. Or you find the father doesn't go to church, the mother goes to church. Now the young person goes with the mother because they're aligned with the mother for a certain type of years until they get to their teenage years, and then they're like, nah, I don't feel like doing it. And you can't force them because children have rights, or people have rights to go to whatever church they want to go. So this is the struggles that we're facing in South Africa. And so it becomes a big challenge. And another one that we find is education and career choices. Decisions related to educational and career paths can sometimes clash with the church, with the Christian values, balancing the pursuit of personal goals and ambitions with a commitment to faith. It can be very much challenging. And these are the things that where churches used to have organizations like METHSOC in the Methodist Church, and then we have STASA, which is in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And in so many different churches, they have their own organizations that you find at the school, or you find them at a varsity, especially in the varsity level. This is where we find that young adults are finding it difficult to be involved in the church because now the church is not there. Basically, the church is not there for them in their space. So the churches need to start growing with those organizations and building, and not building a political system, but building a system that helps your growth in relationships, helps your growth spiritually, helps with your growth as a person. Because for the character of a person to be built, it's built in community. So if I go to varsity and I have organizations such as those that are giving me an ideology where I'm saying I want to build my life as a young person, but I want to build it within community, then it helps, you know. And then the last one that I want to talk about is social justice and advocacy. And as you have listened to one of my previous podcasts where I spoke about advocacy in the terms of in using the idea of how I grew up wanting to become the person that I never had, and me getting into this space of youth ministry and becoming an advocate for young people. So many Christian youth are passionate about social justice and advocacy issues, but engaging in these areas can be demanding and emotionally draining. So they might encounter resistance or opposition whenever they try to address systematic injustices. And it's injustices that we see in our society today. And it's not only because I know a lot of people, when we look at injustice, we see the first thing that we think of, because of the history of where South Africa is coming from, we look at racial injustice. And yet there is injustice in different systems. Looking at like gender injustice, we're looking at a whole lot of different things that are happening. Even Christians are facing injustice themselves, because you cannot become fully who you are as long as it doesn't if it doesn't offend a person that is not a Christian, then it's okay. But if it offends them, then you cannot be who you are meant to be as a Christian. And that's how society has built. And these are the difficulties that we find as young people in a space or in a country like South Africa. And in facing these challenges, South African Christian youth can draw strength from their faith, engage in open dialogue with mentors. I'm really big on mentors and peers. Have changed the friends that you are with. Look at the friends that you always hang around with and try to change them and get people that are going to help you, build you, and you in turn build them. You know, as they say, iron sharpens iron. The peers that you are around, are they people that are helping you build, or are they people that are helping you break and helping you fall? Well, and these are the things that we need to understand. Look for mentors. Look for people that can mentorship you and that can help you as well, align you to focus on the right things and look to having a progressive life, a life that is built on a very strong foundation because of the mentors that you have and the peers that you surround yourself with. And seek guidance from that church and community. You know, churches, we still have churches that are passionate, that have systems, or that have people that are passionate about growing or passionate about reflecting theologically into the life of a young person, which is youth ministry. And it's important for them to continually reflect on the beliefs and values and find ways to integrate their faith into their daily lives and daily interactions. So that's all I have for you today. And I just want to say, let us keep strong. Let us not, as young people, let us not back away from the church, but let's continue to work within the church and try to help the church to be a church that grows. Help the church to be a church that sees a future that is going to be so bright. And I do believe that as South Africans, we can make it a better place. You know, young people in June 16, some years ago, had a dream. They had challenges, and they managed to change and fight a system that had oppressed them for so long. And they thought, no, we have to fight this. They stood up and were strong enough to actually fight that system. Some died, but we still had young people that stood up. So I believe this is the time for us, the next generation, to stand up as well and fight a system that does not allow us to become fully Christians, the Christians that we are supposed to be, to fully love, to fully care, to fully become a person that builds one another. And let us look at those challenges and stand up against them and tell ourselves that these are challenges that can never hinder us from growing in Christ and through Christ and with Christ. So, Quiet Conversations with LJS and Pastor. Peace.